No.
In this day and time, that's not possible because now people around the world start class
Okay.
and so on. That's gonna be almost illegal for you to speak against.
Yes, you're right.
And so that's why sometimes it's a little careful. And nothing has changed. Even back, it wasn't an easy thing for them to go out and preach Jesus Christ and then crucified. The leaders in the world, they used to take them and beat them and tell them, promise us that you would never speak in Jesus' name again. But the apostles have to be bold and they have to say, you know what, you can tell us that, but we have to obey God rather than them. And so we have to realize that the prayer comes when we rely on ourselves. We have to continually pray and ask God for boldness. This message is going to create a division in the world between God persons who decide to do their own thing. And we have to be bold enough to go and share it.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And actually, the message that should be going out is the line. Sometimes you listen to some people, sometimes man will try each other up. Sometimes very people will try each other up. But there is act that we must have in presenting, but the word must go through.
Right.
And we need for instance, these days and times I'm hearing the DC president will say, we need to read great conferences.
Yes.
Ellen, we need to stand down. And then sometimes, be encouraged. People, we need to read for ourselves. Yes, we need to
Okay, good point. And us as Christians, our mind is for us ready to go and teach and preach and baptize. But we as Christians, we get too much into secularism. We forget about what's going on out there in the society. But we see we only want to stay inside. But we don't know our mind is outside. We have to go outside and take this gospel. Yes, inside we need it too, but outside is very important. Okay, more points on the before we go to Wednesday, our time is short with us. Investigation judgment. Now, those that follow this week, what do you think is the investigative judgment?
The Bible says in Revelation, Jesus said, "Behold, I have with you, and my reward is with you. Give every man according as his work shall be." And if Jesus is coming with his reward, that means that he said, "He that is righteous, let him be righteous. He that is holy, let him be holy. He that is guilty, let him be guilty." So that means that people, when Jesus comes, that means he would have already made up his mind on who is holy and who is filthy, and about judgment comes.
Okay.
And so that judgment has to go on before he comes.
Yes.
So when it talks about the investigative judgment, that's the looking over of the books to see who is holy and who is filthy, and so that when Jesus comes, he will be able to come to reward.
Okay. So our mandate is that we will need to get out of our small corner and go, yeah, because judgment day is coming.
laws of probation. The whole world, especially Christians, those who claim to be Christians, because judgment's going to be in. We have to be searching ourselves and making sure we ask God to forgive us of our sins, cleanse us from all unrighteousness, so that when probation closes, we wouldn't be found guilty and unholy side, eventually cut off again from God's people.
And that is so true. Yes, Andrew.
And I think I what Jerry saying, right? Because you find that the reformers back there, in the middle and all them, they really looked at that particular prophecy and thought that 1824, right, was the time when Christ will have come. Right. Not knowing that it says on the 2000 period, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So it has to be a sanctuary being cleansed in some place. Now we know in 70 AD, the temple was destroyed. Yeah. So it couldn't be the 18th sanctuary. Yeah. And so when we reflect in Hebrews, we find that Moses was told to build a sanctuary based on the one he saw in the vision in heaven, right? Yeah. So when we tally back based on the prophecy, we discover that it was not so much a sanctuary on earth because that was destroyed. It was a sanctuary in heaven when Christ went from one phase of his ministry to the other phase. Right. And I think that's why it's important for us to understand the sanctuary method, because when you understand, like just how Jerry said, the time factor of the sanctuary message, when we talked about the Day of Atonement, that was the time of judgment. Right. When if you confess your sins, right, you was cut off from Israel, right? That was a day set aside for holy use. Am I right? And so the same format that we look at the sanctuary on earth is the same format that's going on in heaven. Christ is ministering on our behalf. That's why the Bible says he is our mediator between God and man. If who is he? Jesus is faithful to what? Forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from what? All unrighteousness. And that's what's going on. And that's why when Jerry talk about in Revelation chapter 22, verse 14, 11 to 14, it talks about saying those who are just still, let them be what? Unjust still, right? So it comes a time when Christ started to say, it is finished, right? Cared for all those who confess their what? Sins. But at this point, those who are filthy, let them be what? Those who are holy, let them be what? Still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with this book. Finished. Let me make a declaration to say people on it. We have chosen out of the group that we had, and we said, okay, Sister so and so will be the one get the honor. Am I right? So when you come forth, the people in the county just figuring out who the one to get the award. Huh? So he is coming back with his what? Reward to pay every man according as his wish shall be.
And I just want to also say that this sanctuary message is the sanctuary message that's unique to Adventists, because no one has it. The Sabbath and all those, there are all kinds of people who have it. This sanctuary message is a very important one, because in the middle of nowhere, God put, my way is in the sanctuary. And it's almost like a little clue, okay? And God don't do nothing by chance. He wanted people to see exactly what he was doing. And when we study the sanctuary, the whole Bible come alive. Yes. And it all comes together in one. Also, but then people don't understand that because they're not following what he said. He said, my way is in the sanctuary.
Good point. That's taken very Jerry, that's what you see already. And for those who are in before that, that's what Revelation 22, which is doesn't care. And he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He that is holy, let him be holy still. And he that is accursed and righteousness, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. Now, oh, that comes quickly. And my reward is to be every man according to his way should be. Okay, if he binding down, Tracy doesn't talk about typology of prophecy. And when you talk about typology, you're talking about a type. A type of really something. And many things brought in the same really text, right? But we don't have much time, but we already been through a good study this morning. But typology as prophecy, they have some points ready with Matthew, John, Roman, John. They talk really with Jonah and how really the scriptures were being fulfilled, and who's the lamb of the rule, the lamb that was sent, and all that. And sometimes when we read, it was mentioned, we only read, we scan over the reading. We don't really apply them in our life. And that's what we have to start studying. Because there are many people there who are studying. And they are studying, and when they study, they want to know more. So as me, as a person who really looking searching, I really want to know what's going on because I'm searching. I need to find out. I come to the scripture, yes, Daniel.
Okay, I was for example, look at the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins.
Uh-huh.
You look at that as a typology of prophecy. In other words, when we reflect on that, that is the scenario to what is happening in our day.
Yeah.
Am I right? You have wise persons who decision, and you have those who say, I can wait.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
The foolish person who didn't make sure put enough oil in their what? Now, and then the time comes to bride for what? And who's Lord?
David Lord.
Same similarity.
But you know, if you look at that saying, those 10 versions, it really goes deep, you know. Remember now, they were already sanctified people. They were sanctified people. But those 5, they decided to lay back. They decided, you know, some different I'm going to drift away now from the truth. And from then, drifting away from the truth, when Jesus came, which we know Jesus is who? Jesus was the bridegroom, right? So when he came, they were not ready. The early revelation, you know, the early revelation. So they decide that they don't want to help Christ anymore. Nothing can happen when it's a day. We all have the spirit of prophecy in our life. We study, we read, we understand. But the time will come now when we get too much secular in the world that we don't want to hear nothing about them all the scriptures. And so what I want, we drift ourselves away. And when Jesus comes, those who are guilty will stay guilty. Yes, I agree. Yeah, okay. To be sanctified. Right. Okay, so that's what they have in many ways today. So as we conclude, we know that when talk about these situations in our time is away from us. Jesus when he went to the cross, he was captured, and what happened? He was tortured, he was rejected, he was betrayed, he was abused, he was denied. All because of the crowd that thought that they were really away with him. But what he did all these things to Jesus. And through all of that, they did not have that closer walk with him. They saw what he's doing. They saw the miracle, they saw everything was happening with Jesus, what took place. Yet they still rejected, they denied, they tortured, and they abused. And that's why we have people that day. That's why it's time for us now to get our heart right with God. Matthew chapter 24 was a very important point this morning because that's over in 3 parts. We break it down into to be ready because Christ is soon to come. The pestilent times is in the middle. We are going to the pestilent times now, and there will be more pestilent times coming upon us. What we are seeing now, this pandemic, that's the first stage. It will be more. The hardest part is will we be able to stand on a great day? Because when they say when you try to put the clothes around us, we cannot wait so. That's a great pestilent time. So as we go through this week, for next week, let's remember that study, so that we can be ready when Jesus comes.
Thank you, Brother Cooper. This morning we talked about our walk with God, and we talked about David, Solomon, Moses, and Gideon. And even though they walked with God, they still fell short because none of us are perfect. Are there any announcements? Okay, let us stand and sing. I will sing of Jesus' love, hymn number 183. Just like to welcome those who came in later. This is our first time back for a couple months, but it's good to see everyone. Sister Ida, maybe you could give me a hand, please. Okay, let's sing. I will sing of him who first loved me for he left. I want
Now, if you open our mouths and begin this part of our service, we ask that you would refresh our minds once again and tune our hearts to sing we're going to begin with the chorus that we call our first John 3. First John 3. all over us, we still want God to be our God. We're going to stand and sing hymn number 2. Hymn number 2. All creatures of our God and King, lift up your voice and with us sing. Hallelujah. Oh, burning sun with golden praise, oh praise. Hallelujah.
What is that? I can't see it. I trying to turn it. No, don't put it. I'm gonna take the top piece. I'm gonna touch it. Forget the tweezers leg. I'll just take the top piece. Come in and you play with it, trying to break it off every day. Look up there. Let's see. Let's see. Look right there. Let my people go.
All I see is this. I always forget. I always make new what looks like belly button. Belly button. Kasi the belly button is now. This is great. That's why I always bring some.
What's it like here? You mean the North Mama? Freedom. What's it like? Find out, Mama. Thank the Lord. You gotta find out.
Good morning and happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath. It's good to see your faces this morning. So, it's our first time, so let us, the deacons, please stand, and we all bow our heads for us. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for sparing our life to see yet another beautiful Sabbath day. Thank you, O God, for keeping us through the pandemic. And Lord, we give you thanks for our presence here in your sanctuary this morning. We ask that you bless the tithes and the offering, O Lord, and we pray that it goes forth to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Coming over again, and it shall come back to you when you give.
Hot something?
Measure, press down,
Here's my house.
number one, 9 and 3. Number 2, put them back in your jar. Besides, God is 10% of what you make. Come, let me count how much money you got here. Let me count it.
Hi, I almost got it. So one.
Start with the bigger money first. 20.
And this is
Come,
5.
come. 20.
So this is 10.
20. 25. 26. 27. 28. 29. 30. 31. 32. 34. 36.
That's
37.
51. I get $51. You want to count how much the cents? There you go. And I will count the dollars. You count the cents and I count the dollars.
53. Yeah,
What?
because I take money, spend it,
yes.
and then I put it back. I put more back.
I got $53. Now, no, this was right here.
Hello. Hey.
Great and merciful God, which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Father, we your people has come before you this morning, O Father God, for the purpose of worshiping you in spirit and in truth. You have brought us back together once again, O Father God, in your presence. And you said, where two or three are gathered in my presence, to worship in my presence, that my Holy Spirit is in the midst of you all. So, Father, we have come this morning, O God, to give you thanks and to give you praise. First, I ask that you forgive us of our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. O Father God, we know that we are not worthy creatures, O Father, worthy of what you have done. But Father, through your Son, Jesus Christ, we are able to approach the throne of grace, O Father God, boldly to present our petition to you. And we come to you, Father God, just giving you our all, submitting to you, Father God, that you would take full control. We ask that you would take us today as wholly yours. We lay everything at your feet. Father, we are so grateful for what you have done for us. You have brought us through a week. There's so many bad things that have happened to us. We could have been dead. Some could have lost their houses. Some could have been struck down with sicknesses. But Father God, we are here with our hands and our feet able to move, be able to speak, be able to sing praises to your name. Father, we give you thanks, so Father. In the midst of destruction, Father God, we are able to come together and lift up your name. We are so grateful. We ask, oh Father God, that you continue to be with us. Continue to cover us, oh Father God. Our families, we pray, oh God, that you would put your hand upon us, oh God, and cover us in such a way that Satan has no access to us. Satan wants to break us down. He wants to discourage us. He wants to displace our faith. He wants us to doubt you. But Father God, we know that as long as we put our faith and our trust in you, nothing, no harm will befall us. We will see destruction on the left and on the right, but it will never come nigh us because you said it won't. So Father God, we come before you this morning, Father God, thanking you and asking that you just continue to bind us together in love. Father God, we plead the blood of Jesus over every family, Father God, under the sound of my voice, every family of our denomination, every family in this country, Father God, we plead the blood of Jesus, that Satan cannot destroy us and not harm us in any way possible. Father, we pray that you'll just move through the rooms, oh Father God, and break down everything that Satan has built up, oh Father, and lay out and draw us closer to you, Father, that we might have lived your holy name. We bring a financial situation, Father God, before you. We know because of this pandemic, Father God, many persons lost their jobs. Some have been to work. Some wasn't able to pay their rent. Some wasn't able to provide food for their families. But Father God, nonetheless, you kept us through it all, and we are giving you thanks. We are asking you now, oh God, that you would step in the midst, Father God, and restore everything that Satan has break down, oh Father God. Build up what Satan is trying to tear down, oh Father God. Build up the faith of your people, oh Father God, and help us to stand together as an instrument, oh Father God, to proclaim the gospel to a dying world. We are praying, oh Father God, you give us the courage and give us the strength, oh Father God, to stand. For we know according to prophecy, things are going to get worse. The time is going to come when we are going to be afflicted, when we're going to be in prison, some even killed for the name of Christ. But Father, we pray for the strength, oh God, to stand even in the face of death and proclaim that Christ Jesus is Lord. So Father, we come before you this morning, just giving you our all. We bring before you the service. We pray, Father, that your Holy Spirit moves through this place today and touch every heart. Father, convict every heart, oh Father God. Those that are in the valley of decision, oh Father God, lead them to make the decision, Father God, for you before they in time too late, Father. Satan is a liar from the pit of hell, and he's lying to the people to make us believe that we have so much time left. But Father, according to the signs that we are witnessing now, we don't have much time left. Things are happening in a rapid session. So Father, we pray that you will just convict their hearts and help them to make that decision at election sure. That they may be in that group of people when we should look in the sky and see him coming. We shall say, lo, here is our God. He has come to save us. He will deliver us from the hands of death. So Father, we are grateful. We pray, oh God, that you will continue to move, oh Father God, those that are sick, those that are broken, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, Father God, we bring them before you right now. And we pray for healing and restoration for them, oh Father. We pray that you will just build them up, Father God, build them up and let them know that you are in control. And no matter what they are experiencing, Father God, you have the last say. No doctor has no last say. No medicine can heal the way that you can heal. So we present them before you right now. And we bring healing right now in the name of Jesus Christ. And we want to mention Sister Charity that you continue to strengthen her, Father God. Give her the strength to continue to hold on to faith and know that you are in control. We bring Brother Jarvis before you. We pray, Father, that you will strengthen him and his family, his sister who's there. We pray that you will continue, Father God, to let your mercy shine upon her, Father God, and bring her back to good health, that she will be a witness for you, Father God. We bring Brother Brandon, whom we have not seen for a long time. We pray, Father God, that you would bring healing. Father, recreate every cell of sin, of sin, every organ that has been affected by sickness, oh Father God. We pray that you would recreate and rebuild, oh Father God, that your people might proclaim your messages and proclaim how God has delivered us from the hands of sickness. So we bring all of those whom I will not mention, Sister Johnson and Brother Johnson, and all of our members whom we have not seen in a long time. We pray that you, oh God, would just bring healing and restoration. Give them comfort that you are in control and nothing happens unless you say so. So Father God, we come to give you thanks and the honor and all the praise because it belongs to you. And as we are about to receive your message through your manservant, we pray, oh Father God, that you would speak, oh Father God. You, Father God, through his mouth, Father, proclaim your will to your people and give us that ability, give us that courage to put into practice that which is about to be said, oh Father God. Transform us, Father God, today. When we leave here, don't allow us to leave here the same way that we came, but let us leave here transformed, renewed, and recharged to go into the world and proclaim the free this message to the dying world. And we pray and thank you for everything that you have done, oh Father. About missing anything. We know we have leader before we have leader. We know that you are in control. You sit on the throne, you sit high, and you look down low, and you rule in the affair of men. You rule over the affairs of the earth, Father God. We pray for our country that our leaders might make sound decisions, Father God, that will lead to your name being uplifted. We pray that you, Father God, give them the wisdom and the understanding to stand for you, even when at risk of us being blacklisted and being cast aside as a country who will not cooperate with the system. And Father God, we will be covered by the hands of by your mighty hands, oh Father God, and we will be provided for according to your word. For you said your bread and your water will be sure. Father, we thank you and we ask you each and every pastor, and we lift them up in prayer this morning, oh Father God, that you would have your way and that your name would be glorified. And at the end of it all, Father God, none of us can say that your people will lift your name to the best of their ability. And word that we spoke, everything that we did was to the lifting up of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We thank you, oh Father God, for what you have done. What you have done, Father, we are looking forward to. If you do nothing else for us, Father, you have done more than we deserve. We are grateful. In your precious and glorious name we pray. Amen.
I invite you to take your Bible in hand and we will turn to Psalms chapter 18. Psalms chapter 18, verses 1 through 12. Psalms chapter 18, verses 1 through 12. We will read responsively. I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised.
I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. For the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. My God, my strength, in whom I will trust. My buckler and the horn of my salvation, and my high tower.
I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. The sorrows of hell compass me about. The snare of death preventeth me. Then the earth shook and trembled. There went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and darkness was upon his feet. He made darkness his secret place, his pavilion around about him, where dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. together, and the brightness that was before him is thick cloud passes, stone and clouds of fire. May the Lord add rich blessing to the reading and doing of his holy word.
Morning, happy to share the claim, share your screen, Dr. Franklin, good morning. Share your screen, Dr. Franklin. Share your screen, Dr. Franklin.
Um, Frozen. Some technical difficulties there. They can hear you. Just as a quick reminder of the topic, let me make sure I'm accurate with it. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be here. I have gone through quite an experience, and I'm thankful to God. I hope everybody's hearing me. Thankful to God that I am spared and that I am alive, and that I have made it through to see June of 2020. It has been quite an experience getting ill, and you know, going through the illness brought me down to the state where I was like a baby. Nurses had to do everything for me, except feed me, of course, because I never lost my ability to eat. But apart from that and my ability to praise God, those are wonderful things that God used to take me through, and He worked wonderfully. I felt sick, as you might have known, from in March, mid-March, and had all the symptoms, and including the fevers and the pains and the loss of smell and the taste and the debilitating features, and we had to be admitted to the hospital. And at the hospital, I received excellent care. Oxygen was a very important part of my therapy, because what really drove me to the hospital was after about a week and a half of battling this, I got this sudden shortness of breath. And, that's a sign I knew that I should move with fast. Thank God He helped me to get there on time. And with the assistance of others, I really came through the excellent care there at the Princess Margaret Hospital, and then also at um, the doctor's hospital, both for one night downtown at Shirley Street and for about a week at Blake Road, where again the facility is excellent, the care was excellent. And about 6 weeks ago, they were able to discharge me, and I have been steadily recovering, 6 to 7 weeks now, and I've been steadily recovering and doing what I know are the right things to do to live healthily, including good rest. My body has really gotten some benefited from some good rest that it probably has not gotten over the years. And at the same time, I've been keeping very active for the Lord. Anything that I'm asked to do, I get involved in, as long as it is safe, etc. And I emphasize the safety among us. I emphasize that we really make sure that we practice the healthy and the safe things, including the wearing of the masks, social distancing, and of course, that we practice to be loving to one another, even in those circumstances. Because, it's a strange experience, but with the wearing of the mask, the washing of the hands, the social distancing, we have been able to really contain this virus in this country and in several other Caribbean countries. We have been one of the examples to the world, this whole region. And our death rates are very reasonably low, almost the same as like for the common flu, common cold. So really, there's much to give God thanks for. I do encourage you to always call upon God in these circumstances, and even without these circumstances. And I hope you never get sick. And I hope that is the thing that you have to praise God for even more. But of course, if you do get sick and He delivers you, praise God for that, like I am doing. Thank you so much. And I wish you a blessed Sabbath. And we hope to meet again as we move through this city and through this country and around the world to continue God's work. Thank you very much.
you actually tell someone they cannot come, they come here, you can test them and they must quarantine themselves for 2 days. The test back. Now I'm trying to figure out how to work it. Vincent, this is moving. Oh. Oh. And so those are some of the challenges moving forward. How will we deal with that? As simple as that is. And I told someone, I said, have you been tested? They said, no. I haven't been tested. I said, how do you know either of us are not positive but without symptoms? George Floyd, the guy with COVID-19, which means those officers who arrested him, I don't remember if they were wearing face masks or whatever, they now have to be checked and placed in quarantine to see. Otherwise, if they're in jail, they run the risk of spreading it, everybody come in contact with them. And that is why you hear government talk about things about the harder you speak. Which one? Okay. The harder you speak, the further the air can move, and it's in the air. There are no physical droplets that we can see. So the question is, how far can it move before it lands on the ground? Okay, here we go. Let's go. All right, so now we're moving. Skip that. And so those are some of the challenges we face with as a country. I also ask persons, and since we're live on YouTube, to educate themselves, because sometimes people say, shouldn't let it get to you. I'm in many chats, family, church, work, you name it. And I see people spreading talk, oh, it came from 5G. I tell one family member, we don't have 5G here. We're not even testing this stuff. So how it becomes, how could 5G bring it if we don't have 5G? And all the countries that don't have 5G. And I said, find it with 5G is all about. It's a tower, it doesn't affect, it doesn't penetrate the skin, anything like that. As a matter of fact, it's so short, I can come in this building and lose a 5G signal because it doesn't penetrate walls easily. You can go behind the tree and suddenly you lose it. So it's hardly likely. Then they say it was manufactured in a lab. All the scientists who have examined it says they don't see the signs that it was manufactured in a lab because there are certain things you have to change in the cell at the cellular level in order to do something like that. You have to tamper at the cellular level or maybe microcellular, I don't know the exact term. All the scientists who have looked at it and spoken says they don't see it where someone tampered with it. Because it's the same family like the cold, the flu, they come from the same family, coronavirus. But you have different, I call it strains, for lack of a better word. This one is 19. SARS is another member of the same family. I think Ebola is a different one, but I'm not sure. COVID-19 is the same member, a member of the same family, but they take on different characteristics. This one attaches maybe the respiratory, the air, through the nose. They say even through the eyes you can get it, you can transmit it. It attaches to the lungs. And that's the reason for the washing of hands, to get rid of it and remove that ability, they say, to attach to the lungs and the nasal cavity, the respiratory system. And so all I'm saying is this: we as the people of God who say that the health message is the right arm of the three angels message, must educate ourselves. To me, this is a part of the health message. Understanding the way the body works, how it works, what infects it, what does not. So you see me a little paranoid, there's good reason. As simple as this, the two of us touching this, if one of us was sick and we touch our face or whatever to get it on our hand, then the next one touches it. And somebody would say he touches the eye, the hand, whatever.
transmission could occur. As simple as that. And that's why they tell you washing, wiping, all of that stuff, because that's how transmission is taking place. Simple process. So that's the reason also for spacing, physical spacing, because it will travel so far, it will drop to the ground. In a case like this, with fans on, that's why the AC is off. So fresh air will blow in, it will hopefully not travel far. As far as I know, I'm not COVID-19 positive, but at the same time, if I was, because I'm speaking and I have to use a little more volume, it travels a little further from me. And the harder you talk, you sing, the further it can travel. Just like when you shout, it's the same principle. Volume, it's moving out. And so for those reasons, I encourage all of us, let's not let our guard down. We're a tourist economy. If word gets out that we have a breakout, an outbreak, in our country, nobody is coming. And there's only so much money the government can borrow before they tell them you have the ability to pay back. You can't even tax your citizens, too many of them out of work. 13,000 people, including Bahama and Atlantis. That's a sizable size of the economy, 13,000. Government gets a lot of revenue, so we need to bear these things in mind. But having said all of that, now we have our scripture. Yes, so let's see if I got this right. Good. I'm not going to read through it again. But here's my outline I want you to focus on for today. Let's go back one. There we go. I normally do this with my phone, so bear with me. We're looking at signs of the times, all of which you're seeing, to me are signs of the times. Pestilences, all of these stuff, it's cause. Just like years ago when HIV first came out, there was so much stories and rumors going around. Eventually we began to understand it. Same thing with this one. It's just that we are doing things that sometimes we should not be doing, and Mother Nature simply does what it's programmed to do because of sin. Personally, I don't see it as God saying, I'm going to punish you and I'm going to send this among you. Very often when things happen, it's because of the results of individuals. God told Israel in Numbers between 13 and 16, I don't remember which one, that's not a part of my message. When persons had certain skin disease, stay outside the camp, go away, spend 7 days. After their skin disease, they could no longer be contagious, then they had to come back in, wash their clothes and ensure everything was gone, then they could fellowship again. So the principle of quarantine is nothing new. God told Israel about it. They had to practice it during the Middle Ages and later on to stop the spread of certain sicknesses. That is nothing new. We've learned about this, we've been practicing this all along. If I came to cold with flu, coughing and sneezing or whatever, my members would send me straight back home. If you're sick, go home. Same principle. Just that sometimes you're sick and you don't. We see as signs of the time. Look at our world today, the march of nations. Someone said this thing with George Floyd is different because there are so many Caucasians, white people would say, who are now part of it. They're demanding change. It's not something that flares up and dies. It's spreading around the world. They say, look here, we are all human beings. The colors, we all bleed one color. What color is that? Red. We're all human beings. We all came from Adam and Eve. So we're one family, so we must look out for each other. God knows with one family, the human family, because that's the family he sent his son to die for. When I look at what's happening in the world, all the religious saying,
Persons don't understand what's happening. You'll have to reconnect, Lisa. You dropped out. Reconnect to the internet and start Zoom again. So what I'm saying is the church must now ask, how can we minister? Help out for me, please. Give her put in the room number and whatever. So what I'm saying is this. We have to look at how, as a church, we can utilize this time when everybody is fearful. What about my job? How am I going to pay for my house? People have lost their jobs. When will the economy reopen? From around March to June, that's like 3 months. Banks are now saying, look, we need our money. Otherwise, we're going to have to foreclose on your house. Landlords are putting people out. So all of these are things that creates a certain level of apprehension. That's what we're saying. How can we minister to people during this time of apprehension? How do we do that? Those are the things that we must consider and we must think of as a family. Our world is changing. Renewable energy in the US, definitely in the UK, is now, let me rephrase that, renewable energy, solar and wind, now outdistance. We're getting more electricity from solar and wind than we're getting from coal. This is the first time that it's ever happened. Our world is changing. In some countries, they put the nuclear companies that produce electricity and shut them down. So all that as far as they're concerned are fossil fuels. We're going to buy you out and shut you down. The world is changing. In the US, in California, what is the most popular car in the state of California that sold more units than any other? Take a few guesses. Let me see. Who think they know? Tesla, an electric car. In the UK, it is more common. In Norway, it is the car that is registered with the most registrations in a single month. Our world is changing. Mechanics who can only fix internal combustion engine will have to realize that unless they're able to make adjustments, they're going to find themselves out of work because the world is changing. I'm talking with signs of the time to show us where we are. The conflicts, North Korea, they're beginning to wonder what's happening. North Korea is saying, look here, Trump administration isn't working with us, so we're going to do our own thing. We getting nuclear power, come what it, we'll be able to nuclear state no matter what. We're going to build a bomb and we're going to be able to launch it intercontinental, far enough to hit the United States of America. They say, oh, they don't have the technology. Then they say they're way in advance and we thought, yeah, but to bring it back and to re-enter, remember, money talks. All you need is sufficient cash to pay off some scientist or somebody to show you how to do what you don't have the skills to do, and that's it. So are we ready for nuclear North Korea? You can't just go in and attack them because they will light up Seoul, Japan, and Guam with regular missiles in no time at all, which is they all allied to the United States and the UK. So you're not anxious to get into a fight. China and Russia says, at least China says North Korea is their closest ally. So if you touch them, you touch us. And Russia says China is its closest ally. So you touch China, you end up with a major arms race. So that doomsday clock, the hand is closer to midnight than it ever was before. That's the world that we're living in. Let's look at something else. Let's see if I can get this to move now. Okay, moving. So Timothy says to us, in the last days, perilous, difficult times will come. I pointed at this or at the. Okay. Terrible times will come in the last days. What does he say? Okay, David, you can change this manually for me. This is not working with me. Okay, people will be what? Lovers of themselves. They don't love God. They don't necessarily love others. Everything is number one. What is good for me is good for everybody else. Lovers of money. Our prime minister begs certain businesses, say, look here, you have done well over the years. You can afford to pay your employees during the lockdown. Why are you letting them go? But they're looking out for what is good for them, their bottom line, how much money their company will have, even if they have an abundance to pay. Boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. We can go through a whole lot. Without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal. One of the things that we're finding out is that this lockdown, there's a Ethernet cable, they plug it in if the Wi-Fi is dropping up on the ground. That this lockdown has caused persons to stay together and domestic abuse is on the rise. That's one of the challenges we're faced with. Another one, how do we educate the nation's children come September and still maintain physical distancing? When you have 32 to 33 kids in a class and there isn't no more room to put the desk any further apart, what do? You cannot simply say, let them stay home, because then you have to provide them with the tools, the internet and the computers. And some homes are not safe for children to be in during the day. Because of predators, they're not going to concentrate on what they're supposed to do. They say school is the safest place for them. Yes. You may have to lift it to see it properly. So what do? How do you educate all these kids? We don't have any more buildings. So the government may have to rent some buildings and furnish it and then find teachers or do virtual education, but you still have to have someone monitoring the kids in the building, even if cameras are on and everything. This is where we are today. This is our world. What are we going to do with the economy again? We had to borrow money, so we're going to pay off an old loan. You consolidate. But how much can you borrow? And how will government pay it back? Eventually, they have to get it through taxes. So who are you going to tax? You can only put so much on the hotel. They pass it on to the visitors. And if it gets too high, the visitors stop coming. You put it on the airlines. They will start complaining and they will cut back. You tax the people. They say there's only so much they can do. Someone say just print more money. Well, there's something called, we have a financier here, an accountant here, called inflation. If everybody has a lot of money and there are only 40 cars and 100 of us want those 40 cars, what happens? The price goes up. That's inflation. So you can try print yourself out of a way of a financial situation, but it doesn't work. It just creates inflation. And to avoid inflation, government will have to step in and control everything. And you're no longer free market economy. You're starting to move towards socialism, which puts you in another bracket because the democratic countries cut you off. Signs of the time. This is where we are today. Let's go to the next slide. And so here is where we are. This is what's happening in our world today. All of these are, okay, it's a big button. Okay. All of these is saying having a form of godliness in the Bahamas. You know one way to raise some money? I have an idea. Everybody who has a child out of wedlock and you find out who the father is, you give them a tax. How does that sound for raising money? Now, in all fairness and full disclosure, if that had happened, both of my parents would have been taxed because they weren't married when I was conceived. They never got married. But the people who are having babies don't have the money. The people who have 3 and 4 or 5 children don't have the money. They're just having children and getting along as best. The state is taking care of a lot of the kids. So a lot of the kids are on lunch program. I'm saying all of these things to say we must read what's happening in the context of where we are today. in the context of what's happening in our world. And then we decide, how will we respond? Jesus says about the fig tree, that when you see its leaves, know that there's a sign. When you see, we don't have figs here, the mango tree, you see the bud on the tree, then you see the little thing there, and it starts getting bigger. You know summer's coming there, no matter how cold it is, because mangoes bear when? In the summer. He says, if you can read the signs from nature, then you must be able to read the signs of the time and know that my coming is near. When you see all of these things taking place, know that the kingdom of God is near, he's saying. And I'm going to jump past a little. His words will never disappear. His words will never fail us. Which brings us to the fork in the road. What's the fork in the road? The fork in the road is this. How do we respond to what is going on? Remember, we said a crisis is a terrible thing to face. One, there are two things we can do. Okay, let me give it a second. We can panic. And we can become fearful, and we can talk about all the bad things that are going to happen. It works for a short period of time. It's like preachers who tell people, come to Jesus because you might die tomorrow. But you know what we found out after a while? I made my decision at age 16, a month or two before age 16. I was 84, right. After a while, I learned, I ain't died. I hear the same sermon several times and I ain't dead yet. I might have fell down the next day, but I still didn't die. So it loses its effect. Fear is a motivating factor that gets people's attention, but after a while, it loses its effect. Just like us, when those numbers first started rising, everybody was very religious with the mask, the hands and everything. At one point, when you sneeze, what people used to say, bless you. Go in public and sneeze now and look at the response. They look at you like you just cussed them. But now that we're saying, hey, we're flattening the curve, we're not getting any more new infections, persons are dropping their guard and they're saying it's too early. Because there are people who may still be out there, who may have picked it up with no symptoms, passed it on, got better, didn't get checked at the hospital or anything, and passed it on to someone else, or who may pass it on to someone. We still cannot let the guard down. In the States, they opened up too early, and in those states, COVID-19 is starting to climb again. New York says they have the lowest infection rate. They are dropped way down. After all the protesting, some people didn't have on masks. Some took off their masks like I do. Where are we going to be in a few times? So I'm saying fear is not the best motivating factor. The three angels' message says, fear God, give glory to him. The hour of his judgment has come. It was designed to catch people's attention, to grab their attention. But once you've gotten their attention, to say, this is coming, you need something more to hold them. What holds them? The Apostle Paul says, what? The love of Christ compels us. It was no longer the fear of being struck down on Damascus Road. Now he had a relationship, and that moved him, that drove him to proclaim the good news of salvation, that Jesus is coming back. We must warn people about the signs of the time, but that must not be the focus. If that is the focus, we fail. Why? Because we lead people into a state of panic. I had to tell in our family chat, this is the other option if we don't panic. We pray and we work, and that's where I'm at now. I had to tell them, look here, at one point, it was the year 2000, everybody was hyped about it. I got into some of the hype too, I must confess. I didn't turn my computer on for 3 days after the New Year's rolled in. You know what I realized after a while? Everything was okay. So the planes would drop with the sky. Well, planes are not date dependent for flying. They just didn't make them that way. Where something, they have computers, but the computer's not date dependent for them to operate. But again, it was all the hype, and they stockpiled beans and they stockpiled this and that. 2000 came and went and nothing happened. Again, as the people of God, a Seventh-day Adventist, we cannot afford to fall into that trap, looking for something to get the excitement, and that only works for a short while. And when nothing happens, They accuse you of crying wolf. After 2000, we went through several stuff. Well, the first one was the Gulf War in 91. We had a lot of theologians on campus, budding ministers saying, oh, it's just a smoke screen. Nothing is going to happen. And then it broke out. What does that mean? They're false prophet, right? And you had the second one come. And then we had 2000. And we had 2003. And we kept going. One after the other persons, when something major happens, they say, this is it. And I tell them that's one of the signs. God has given several signs that we must look for in the natural world. I've seen about 5 or 6 more hurricanes than my son in my entire life. And there's a 32-year difference between us, the Cooper. 32 years, and I've seen 5 more hurricanes in my life than he has. So what does that say about the frequency of the storms? All of these are signs of the time. A guy swam underneath an iceberg the other day to show you just how fast it's melting. The snow on the mountains are melting faster than they had anticipated. Satellite photos show it. All of these are signs of the time. You know what that means? The countries in Asia who rely on the water coming down from the mountain will soon have to find a new source if it continues. That's another problem when you look at how large Asia is. And they rely on the snow melting to get their water. If there's no snow, eventually they run out of water. They have to find other methods. Signs of the time. Wars. How many countries are at war and some conflict of the other? Signs of the time. Inequality. One of the reasons why Black Lives Matter is taking root, because they're saying, and one of the reasons why Black people in the US and minorities are coming down with COVID-19 more than anybody else is due to access to health care. They say the ground is not even. We don't have the same access, so we're not on our conditioning, our condition. Our immune system is not as strong as the others because we have less access to health care. Therefore, we're getting sick faster, even though we're a smaller percentage of the population. 13% of the US population are Black persons. But about 31 or somewhere around that figure percentage of persons getting COVID-19 are persons of African descent because they have their healthcare system is not as good as their Caucasian counterparts. So that's inequality. When you look at the ghetto, the slums, so to speak, more Black people live in the slums per capita than their Caucasian counterparts. And so they are at a disadvantage, even with education. Government did virtual education. That's good for those who had computers and those who have internet. So they gave the tablets to those on the lunch program. That's fine. Do they have Wi-Fi at home to use the tablet? How reliable is it? So you know what that means? People like my daughter at Bahamas Academy, who was going online every day for classes in Zoom, and Jackie made sure she stayed at that table and did her assignments and homework. She's going to be ahead than those who were slack and just slept through and didn't attend class, and those who did not have the facilities to do it. You see what's happening? There's not an equal playing field. What will the world come to? All of these, I'm saying, are signs of the time. When we look at the religious world, someone says Pope Francis is running to be the president of the world. He believes he's the person, and that may happen sooner than we think for the simple reason nobody saw the world being where we are today because of COVID-19. And look at the short space of time in which it happened. One of the reasons why Black Lives Matter has taken the US and Australia and the UK and so many other places by storm, because you had a perfect storm coming together. My topic is friends in high places. I haven't forgotten it, but I'm leading you somewhere. People were locked down. They were tired of being inside. 2, a lot of people are out of work. That's the second one. 3, persons don't have the same stereotypes and prejudices that many of their parents did. So if you talk with a lot of the Gen Xers and the millennials, persons between 20 and 34, 35, they'll tell you they don't see sense in owning a car. They rather do ride sharing. So the whole landscape is changing. That age group, they don't mind if they have a friend. I have one of our pastors. He says he has friends who are atheists, who are homosexuals, who are lesbians. They talk, they know where each other stand. They're not trying to influence him over there, but they still talk among each other. They are more tolerant, is what I'm trying to say. As a church, how does that fit into our model for ministry? How do we reach them? They need to be reached. You can't just throw stones and tell them they can this and that. Like one person said, God has a place in hell called extra crispy. I don't know about that. Because I don't think it's going to make a difference if you understand what the Bible teaches. Fire is going to come down from heaven. It's going to burn everybody. God is not going to go through some special process to keep you alive in hell for 6 months and this one 2 weeks. When fire come and burn, it finish. You don't last too long with fire. Anybody knows that. Minutes maybe. Because out of the ashes, he's going to create a new world. So I don't see the God that I know, the one I read in scripture, as murderous. You get 6 months in fire. I can find a way to keep you alive. Homosexuals, I can give you a year. Adulterous, you only can get 2 weeks. No, you burn until you die. And that's going to be a very short time because he's not interested in the business of punishing anybody. He's interested in removing sin. And as I say all the time, the scripture says God will dry away all tears from their eyes. But do you know who the first eye you will have to dry is God? Why? Because he would have had to destroy his children. Let me see the hands of all the parents in here. All the parents, raise your hand for me. Thank you. No matter how disgusting, how much stress your children give you, you still love them. And when they die, if they die before you, you can still cry. You miss them. I saw it with a man whose son got hanged. He said, well, they didn't hang my son. Let them hang all the rest. I lost mine, so let the rest go. He still felt it for his child. God lost his son. He sacrificed his son. More than that, hellfire, he will have to burn up, if you please. How many of his children? How many billions of his children? The very angel who stood in his presence as a covering cherub before he became Satan, who stood there, he has to destroy him. All of those angels who spent who knows how long in heaven before they were kicked out, before they rebelled and were kicked out. He has to destroy them. You really don't think a God of love is going to feel that? The first eye you're going to have to dry is God. So get your heavenly towel extra, extra, extra large ready. Because you're going to have to dry his tears. He's going to dry our tears, but you're going to have to dry his too. Because that's who he is. He is love. And I'm saying that is the message we also need to take to individuals. We need to let them know that God doesn't hate you because you're following a particular lifestyle. So often you ask persons to come to church and they give all the excuses. You know why they don't want to come? Because this one's shacking up with somebody. But you tell them, look here, your church is a hospital for sinners, not a nursing home or a social club for the saints. All of us in here need the physician, everyone. Some of us got spiritual cancer, some got spiritual AIDS, some got spiritual diabetes, whatever it is we got. We need the great physician. And the pastor doesn't mean that I'm above anybody else. I just happen to hold a particular office. I'm also need a physician. Sometimes I think I need him more than everybody else because I got to lead you. So I have to be in the right frame of mind and everything if I'm going to lead because you're looking to me. And you may think I follow in Christ when I may be going my own way, which means I'm in danger of leading you astray. And God is going to hold me responsible for that. How he does it, I don't know. So because this one don't have the right clothes, and this one because they're living with somebody, and this one because they having sex with a boyfriend or the girlfriend or whatever, and this one's still drinking and that one's smoking. And look here, come. If you think so, you could go outside in the yard for a couple of minutes, take a puff. You can still hear the sermon, then come back in church. Now, if you're drunk and you start to disturb the service, we can ask you to sit outside. But if you can't come without your half pint, a quarter pint, whatever it is, then come. We want to show them that the church is a welcoming place for everybody, no matter what the situation is. If you man living with man, if you're woman living with woman, you tell them still come. Because when they come, the Spirit of God, we believe, is here. And when the Spirit of God is here, he can speak to their heart because they're in a listening mode, and he may be able to get through and bring about conversion. So this is the place for everybody to come. Whether they're a gangbanger, tell them come. And if necessary, we'll call the police to make sure somebody don't come to get them. Okay? But tell them come. If you know they're dealing the little drugs on the side, tell them, look here, make sure, leave everything home that could get you arrested, but come to church tomorrow. I come in to pick you up if necessary. That's the message I'm saying. We have to tell people, because people are afraid, people are unsure. What am I going to do, Pastor? I've been at work for 3 months, and the landlord said they want their rent. Otherwise, ideally, they can't put you out unless they go to the court. But some of them, they don't listen to that. They just come in one day, change the lock, and lock you out when you go one day, and put your stuff on the side of the road, and then you got to go in the court the main time you're on the road. But ideally, they're supposed to go to court to evict you. Until the court says yes, they can't touch you. That's the laws in the land there. But how are people supposed to eat? School is getting ready to open up. The church has to ask itself, how can we help them? I don't mean the set who just want a new pair of sneakers to say they got the most up-to-date thing. I'm talking with people who really need shoes, who then wear the last set or are too small. Are we in a position to help? By helping, we extend the hand of mercy like the Good Samaritan. By reaching out to help wherever we can, we're playing the part that Jesus did when he fed the 5,000 people. By reaching out and helping someone who has some sickness, advising them, look here, you're fighting diabetes, but you can't just eat banana and oatmeal for breakfast. That turns the sugar way too fast. You need to mix some nuts with it to slow down the conversion so your body don't absorb that too fast. Your protein to slow down the absorption of sugar by the body. I heard Dr. Hannah told that to somebody, I don't know how many years ago, I never forgot it. Need to balance your protein with your starches that may quickly convert to sugar to slow down the process so insulin don't start playing the fool because they can't regulate blood sugar. These are practical things. She's been doing a wonderful job. I hope you're listening. Listen to those health tips that she sent out. You need to. That is the message that we have when we talk about the right arm of the gospel, the health message. We need persons to also see that the changes that are coming in our world just through COVID-19, people are afraid of paper because they're not sure how long the virus is going to live on the paper. I forgot the time frame they gave you. And so like money, who cleans money? Anybody? No. So what is on money? My wife always tells me money is one of the dirtiest things you could deal with. How many hands that then pass through? You don't know what on that when you touch that and you put that in your pocket, and then sometimes you go right there and you eat and you touch your foot. And so they're saying to help prevent some of these diseases and stuff that are spreading around, they're going digital. But when they go digital, they have a greater chance of tracking you. They have a greater chance of blocking you. So you see how one thing sometimes leads to the next. Innocently, very innocently, China and Apple and Google are starting to do it. They can track you. In China, the girl says, see, my status is green, so I can go, I can do certain things. Because it's on her phone. She walk in the store and the whole system communicate. They say, okay, she's all right. Somebody coming and maybe they get a red or the 5 bars, they get 2. Like, no, you can't come in, we ain't dealing with it, get out. It may start off with health, but where else can it lead to? Some simple things in innocent ways. Internet of Things that some people are so crazy about, where everything is connected. Your watch, your phone, your computer, the camera, your air conditioner, your fridge, the stove, the microwave, the iron. You know, just in case you leave it plugged in, or you want the house cool off before you get home, so you touch your phone and you start up the AC at home, and everything is connected, but you're also able to track everyone. So when the scripture says you can't buy nor sell, they will know who you are because everything is connected. I saw something in the feed that Musk has sent up a second batch of satellites, 58 this time, He sent up another batch right after he took those astronauts to the station. His goal is to ring the Earth with up between 12,000 and 48,000 satellites. That's a lot. To provide internet extremely fast to anywhere in the world. So you can literally be in the middle of the Amazon and you can be doing your own thing and communicating with the rest of the world. The satellites are all over, constantly moving with the Earth. That's his goal. So again, instead of all of these keys, that's the church. This for the house and the office. The car keys, I hope it's in that jacket and I didn't leave it in the car. What one young lady did, she had one of these. She gets into her car, and this is the future. You're only gonna drive that thing where you walk, and as you get to the car, it opens the door. She says, that's too much trouble. So she took the little chip out, little small thing with the wire, and had someone embedded in her hand. She didn't feel like carrying a card around that someone could steal. So she just walks the car, and as she gets in proximity, the car opens. Same thing. So instead, every account I have, like they give you a debit card. Not that money on it, but I got debit card anyway. But at least 2 banks. And 2 credit card. Why not? Or is it 1? Yeah, 1. Why not just put all of them in one and you choose which one? But then somebody can still take the whole wallet and go. So they say, well, tell you what then, we can just put it in your hand. So as you walk, you just swipe. And Doctor's Hospital only gets your medical equipment, your medical information. You go to the food store and you swipe and they say, choose with your account. You press this one and the money comes from that account because they can't see your medical information. And when you go to the airport, they can only see the travel. You know what Brother Noel Brown said? One time ago, they take your wallet, now they're going to take your whole hand. Just to say how easy things can go from innocent, like the internet was designed to be, in case war break out, the ally can communicate among themselves. Now we're using it for everything. So when I say we will pray, we will ask for guidance, we will ask for direction, and we will work. Let me see if I can get this to go now again. Give it a second. All right, good. So Revelation 14, 6-12, where John sees these angels flying to the sky, carrying the eternal good news. The reason why they're flying is because it's going swiftly. How do we speed up the message of the good news of salvation to persons? I'm challenging us as a church, locally and internationally. It is unfortunate we had to learn the hard way that COVID-19 had to show us to move outside of our comfort zone and put more emphasis on digital evangelism. Something we should have been doing all along. You know what Pastor Starb said and a few others? They have people worshiping on Zoom from England and all over the place. Because we had challenged this morning, the young lady who sang last Sabbath, they joined in today, but they left. I sent it to the one who did the mission story the first time, and she was supposed to have joined in. Don't know if she did. So we can get our message out. And the day comes when everybody has unlimited internet access, like we do at home. With satellite, that's going to be possible. Everybody is always on. You stop counting data. I only get 2 gigs left for the month. You stop that. Everybody is always connected. Will you have a platform? Will we have a platform to meet them with all the different needs? Health classes, cooking classes, counseling. What needs would we be able to meet in our community? See, in the Old Testament, God set Israel up so that as the nations moved about, they would pass through Jerusalem, strategically located in that region of the world. In the New Testament, he told the church to go out to the world. Take the meetings to the world. So Vanille and I were talking, one Sabbath maybe per quarter, we go back to Wilson Track and we find a way to reach the people. Some will stay and hold street meeting. Some will go and knock on doors. Others may go and do something else. I'm talking about a church who as individuals with the devil. I don't play basketball. I play with the basketball. Vincent will tell you there's a difference between the two. Joshua plays basketball. Go on the courts or bring them here and arrange a friendly game. Look here, these are the rules. We ain't no cussing, ain't no fighting, none of that foolishness. We just having fun. You see, you break down a barrier. Some people will not listen to the Bible study. They're not going to give you the chance. They shut you down, they walk away. But you open the door with a basketball game maybe, or maybe some dominoes one Saturday night. You play dominoes and you join in with a group of guys. Yeah, you may sometimes have to put up with a little bit of foul language at times. But eventually they say, hey, no cussing around Rev. Every Christian is a Rev. That's just the way it goes. Don't cuss, see Rev here. And tell you, watch him out, boy. You get to minister. I told in my final exam for my CPE class, I said, sometimes a social setting can also be a pastoral setting. Because when a group of guys, 6 or 7, gather around the table, they're playing dominoes or whatever they're doing, they're just talking, and everybody's having fun, and you get to slip certain principles in there. And it's done in such a lighthearted way, but yet it's taken seriously. You actually can do counseling in those sessions. Because I discover that in the same way, I can't find nobody to pick on. Okay, my wife is giving me trouble. Jay said, well, mine doing the same thing. And we share tips with each other as to how to solve that. And he gave me some ideas and I give him some ideas. That's ministry. But it's not in the formal setting. There's no opening prayer, no nothing maybe. We just sitting around talking and having fun. That is more effective than sometimes the formal classroom. But there are people who need the formal classroom. You can't cut them off. Just like there are people who will always have a physical Bible. You can't stop that. On the other hand, somebody said their Bible collecting dust because they always use their phone. You use that too. You see, the ministry, the power of the ministry is this. Like the Apostle Paul, I have become all things to all people that I might save some. I haven't had a talk with my cousin for a while. I've given up trying to work this. I have most of it in my head. But he's a Rastafarian from I was a teenager. I talk with him. We know how each other go. I know he's not going into the church. He's not going to a church. He may come to the repast. His mother died. He didn't go to the church, my aunt. So I know he wasn't coming to church when either of my sisters died. I don't hold it against him. He came to the repast and we sat around the table and we talked. I don't try to focus on our differences. I focus on our similarities because I want to build a bond. And we talked about as children, what we did as children growing up. Jah is short for Jehovah. The proper pronunciation is really Yahweh. There's no J in Hebrew, there's no J in Greek. So we really should say Jacob, or I forget how John is pronounced, with an I actually, if you look at it in Greek. So it'd be Jacob. So we say Yahweh. There's no J in Hebrew. So it'd be Yahweh. But you say Jah, okay, I can say Jah, no problem with that. He sees Jesus as a prophet. That's a starting point. He sees Selassie as the descendant from David. Maybe he is, I don't know. They say when the Queen of Sheba went back, she took more than just the wisdom of Solomon. Knowing Solomon, that's possible. Okay? I ain't fighting you over that. I'm not arguing over that. I'm simply saying, okay, if that's your starting point, then let's talk with monarchy. I'm going to move from earthly monarchy eventually to the heavenly, the King of Kings. What do you understand? I want to open Psalms eventually. We get into a discussion and say this never happened to David as far as we know. He's talking about somebody other than himself. Let's look at that. Or maybe I'm going to go into Daniel and show him about the sanctuary. You see, you start with common ground and work your way from there. And if you doubt me, go into any business where you know a couple of people and start talking with relationships, depending on who it is, and watch how people jump in on the conversation. Because everybody has relationships. And that's what we're talking about. Or is it this way? Okay. Babylon is fallen. I'm going to touch on some of these as I move quickly. False religious system. There's so much stuff going around that persons don't seem to know truth from error. We have a duty, and that's why people talk with you roasting in hellfire for a long time. I don't see that in the scriptures. I don't see where someone dies and they go straight to hell. Because then when Christ comes back and he resurrects the wicked, he can join the body to the soul or the spirit, depending who you talk to, had been in hellfire all along. Must he fit to get some more? And then you have to recreate that body so it doesn't get burnt up. No wonder so many atheists are around. How can they believe in a loving God who puts people to roast for eternity in the fires of hell? Babylon is responsible for a lot of that. In Europe, they start the day at Monday. And so Sunday is the 7th day. So they say, remember the Sabbath day? Yes, worship on Sunday. We have to explain that. That's something else. Let's see what comes out of COVID-19. Will there be a push for not just equality, but also for spiritual enlightenment, whatever persons call it? I don't know, but it could happen. What will the results of that be? Will there be resurgence of true godliness, true conservatism, so to speak? True Christianity respects all people. That may be one of the results of this George Floyd movement, the civil unrest you're seeing in the US, that we respect everyone. Someone can show from the scripture. God says, treat everybody alike. There are Christians who are standing for it. They say one of our former pastors, Pastor Ewan, was marching. He's in Canada, Black Lives Matter, because he's a black man. He knows his life is on the line too. When you go out, you get pulled over by the cop, you wonder if you can see the sunset in the US, in certain states. So they said, I guess he marched too. But out of this, what will the result be? Will persons, evangelical movement start preaching and letting them know that this is scriptural, that we must treat all persons evenly? What about us as Adventists? The only denomination that I know of, major denomination, that have black and white conferences. Now, when you're talking about racist and racial bias, we have institutionalized it. Institutionalize it. That was the only way in order for the blacks to have a little say and to worship and do certain things. We had to give them their own conference. I mean, it's a lot of it is mixed now, and you have a lot of mixed marriages and everything, but it's still there. There's still some fields who feel that way. Separate, don't cross. Teachers who grade you based on your ethnicity. At Andrews University, they tell me, they say in the seminary, these are the Bible teachers. Some have died. I don't know if any are still there now, but I'm just saying where we are, and yet we say we're God's remnant. So the message is more than head knowledge, it's more than theological. It must be heart transforming to realize that, hey, all of us are the same blood. All of us are the same. You go and view an autopsy, go on YouTube if you can't get the PMA. And you see when they cut them open and you see. And what you see there, same thing inside you. The same thing. We all the same. Prejudice is a learned thing. You take 3-year-old children from all races and put them together and watch them play. The fact that one is light and one is dark, they don't notice. They see it doesn't mean anything to them. Just like how one got sharp nose and one got broad nose, like those things don't matter to them. Prejudice is a learned thing. All of these are things I'm saying as a church we have to speak to. We have to speak out. We have to teach. We have to show that we accept everybody. And as I said in the pastor's chat, or was it AY last Sabbath, the elephant in the room in the Bahamas is not so much black and white today. That is pretty much sort of under control. It has to do more with nationalities. I from the Bahamas, you from Jamaica, you from Haiti, you from Guyana, you from this place, you from that place. I'm better than you because of this, and I got this, and you don't have that, therefore, and the list goes on, and how we relate to each other, and who got this. In college, I call it the BVJ syndrome, or JVB. You take your pick. Bahamians versus Jamaicans or Jamaicans versus Bahamians. Always at each other's throat. Why? They don't know. They just met it. And their parents probably met it. And they just carry on the legacy. It's like the rebellion and the syndicate. They know more. But the grandkids of some of those who are in the rebellion and syndicate are the ones who say carrying on. We don't like them. Why? We don't know. We just don't like them. I said, I don't have time for that foolishness. JVB syndrome or BVJ syndrome. I got better things to do. When you compare yourselves among yourselves, you become no better than yourself. So if you keep looking at who comes from where and whatever, rather than how can we live together and work together, as the case might be. Now, I'm not dealing with immigration, none of that. The laws are the laws. You follow them wherever you go. But it can be this year, and I better than you, and I can show you, and that should not be a part of the family of God. Let me make the connection for you. Those who follow Babylon, that's the end result, not for eternity. Come on, pointing the wrong way? Okay. Forever and ever, but ever and ever is contextual based on the context of the passage. In other words, it cannot be put out. Like Sodom and Gomorrah was burned with unquenchable fire, but it's not burning today. Well, that's what the same context here. Okay, here's where I'm trying to get to. Christ's method alone, okay, you can read it, will give true success in reaching the people. What did he do? The Savior with man as one who? Read with me. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, and won their confidence. Then he bade them, followed me. He mingled, interacted. In Christianity, we have it wrong. The pastor can be around the corner talking with the fellas, maybe in the bar who drinking. Now, it's another thing when he start drinking and carrying on like them. But he's not supposed to go in the bar and talk with them because he's a holy man. We have it wrong. Read it again. He mingled. That's why they said Jesus was what? A gluttoner, a wine bibber, a friend of what? Publicans and sinners. Publicans with crooked tax collectors. Look who like to be around them, the prostitutes. So if you see, when I come to church or when I go by the conference, I go walking to the ladies who one time we saw standing up on the street while we were driving, always want to be around me. What the word can be? Pastor DeVoe, something going on. While he was walking and teaching, they like to hang around him. We have it wrong. He mingled with them. He showed his sympathy for them. He talked, he listened to them, he understood them. He won their confidence because of that whole process. Our friends, the Roman Catholics, are good at this. They start a basketball league, they go in the court, they play ball, they do whatever. They are very good with the social justice and meeting people's social needs. They're very good at this. Then they say, follow me. And that's why in many cases they're highly respected because of interaction with the community. That is the thing that they have learned to master. So I didn't see any, well, yes, they did say you had the imam from Islam, you had the priest, you had the rabbi, you had the different thing, all walking hand by hand in hand to show solidarity for that thing there. And like I say, some things happen, not intentional, but they just a natural outgrowth of what is happening. Let's look at the next one. Oh, wrong way. Okay, change that for me, please. It's not following me. Oh, battery is there. Change it, go to the next slide. Okay, so, oh, sorry, go back one. Go back one. So it should be with us. Wherever we are, we should watch for opportunities of speaking to others of the Savior. If we follow Christ's example in doing good, hearts will open to us as, come on, stay with me. Yes, not abruptly, but with tact, born of divine love. We can tell him of him who is the chiefest among 10,000 and the one altogether lovely. This is the very highest work in which we can employ the talent of speech. So you find a way to reach people. What are their interests? What are their passions? And for that, Christians must be widely read. Okay, thank you. I forgot that piece there. We must read widely so that we can talk with everybody, whether it is the banker or the person on the construction. You read widely, you may not know about it, but you can engage in a conversation at a certain level that you can find a way to reach them. And not all of the time it's with religion. Sometimes they just need you to befriend them, so to speak. Sometimes just to listen. You hear them, you listen to them, you encourage them. And when they would have gone through that you would have gone through the entire process. When they leave your presence, so that must be a child of God. I really felt my burden lifted. And that is all people need sometimes. Dr. Adley, one of the psychologists at UB, said a guy came to him after Dorian and he talked he asked 1 or 2 questions. And the fella talked for 55 minutes straight. And when he was finished, he was like rejoicing. He felt so light. He just needed to vent. He needed to let go. That is another ministry. There will be people who you will meet who sometimes, yeah, they're hungry and they're tired and they're homeless. They just need to know somebody willing to sit and listen to them. Don't be quick to talk. Don't be quick to give advice. And that is my tendency. Somebody say they're hungry. Say, well, okay, let me see if I got $10. So we got a good neighbor barrel. We need to put some stuff in there. When I really need to stop and listen. This person may just want somebody to talk to me. Somebody to hear me out, to listen to me. And in times of grief, that's something. Oh, go to the next slide for me, please. We need to do. And I tell them that. I'm becoming a master at it, I guess you would say. Having lost so many persons whom I was close to, from Delton Tannis to Tommy during the Labor Day parade, to my, nephew, my niece's husband, to my sister, then another sister. And then I've had several, 1 or 2 this year. Persons just need to talk sometimes. They don't need advice. Don't tell them to be strong. Don't tell them to stop crying. Don't try to comfort them. We learned that with Job. I was in a seminar this week. When Job's friends sat on the ground for 7 days and were silent, that was the best thing they could have done. The minute they opened their mouth, what happened? Job started getting defensive. Things went downhill. All of that is a ministry of the church. That is a ministry of the church. And I'm saying we need to start talking and thinking, how can we minister to the different needs of these people? Some people like me, I'm a strong left brain. The crusade I was baptized in, some of you know Brother Bernal Butler. Any of you know Bernal Butler? From Grandstand, he died. He had me as his assistant Bible work, and I wasn't even baptized. All of the rallies they had at Grandstand Church I attended, because I had already started keeping Sabbath. Imagine the candidate, he's saying it's his assistant Bible work, and I did some visits with him too. And I wasn't baptized. But he felt so strongly because my convictions were so strong, because he was teaching. I got hooked on the teaching of the Adventist church. So there are people like me who are left brain. We ain't care, but I would say we ain't care, but the emotions and some of that stuff is good, but we need this. You got to show us some scripture. Then you got those, like my mom, she attended plenty crusades. She ain't moving. They say she will come, but she won't go. My friend Tom Paul said that. That means, oh, she will come to your meeting, but she ain't going no place. You can give her Bible study, but not till you turn pink in the face. She's not moving. She ain't making it. You had to befriend her. When Genova Florville came as a friend, she didn't come with the Bible and just befriended her. Her wall of resistance started to break down. When Pansy Brown came, and Pansy started doing Bible studies with her while I was at Centerville before I went to Turks and Caicos. And she was listening now, because those of you know Pansy is a very friendly, people-oriented person. People say she talked too much, but she was using that now for ministry. The difference there? And that broke down further barriers with my mom. And that was the difference there. Everybody all fish don't bite the same bait. You use pilchers, some you use tongue slobs, some you use worm, some you use the pretty fly plastic looking thing. I'm not a fisherman, so I described it as best as I could. Some you gotta cut off the head of the tuna to catch it. I doubt you can get too far if you use little pilchards and put on a hook to catch a great white. You need something much larger than that. You need to smell blood. You need to smell dead flesh or something to get his attention. You ain't use no conch slug. Forget it. That ain't interested in him. That's too small. I didn't get his attention. And so it's the same way as fishers. Go to the next slide for me, please. Jesus is asking us as a church to be strategic. And in the midst of all of these challenges, I ask us again, what happened to my guys? My thing is off. How do we minister to people? The next passage, when we go back to Hebrews, and I'm going to end there, make some changes, that we have a friend, a high priest in court, someone who we can lead people to say, you're going through a difficult time, let me pray with you because I don't know the answers to all of your questions, the solutions to all of your problems. However, there's somebody who knows and who is hearing. So I was telling the ladies I brought this morning, say, when they stay up till like 3 in the morning. I said, man, I should know that. I got to call you because I was waking up at 3 something this morning. So when I go home, I'm going to crash. And we would have talked that there's somebody who will listen. When you can't sleep, that Jesus is ready to listen. People need to know that. Not because you just been with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you just been drinking or whatever you've been doing, that he ain't want to hear you. He wants to talk to you. He wants you to talk to him. So he can speak to you. Your spirit will speak to your heart and say, yes, I understand you're struggling here. Because Hebrews says he was tempted in all points like as we are, but he never sinned. So he know what it is to be tempted with premarital sex. He would have been tempted. Otherwise, he don't understand what I would have gone through. He'd have been tempted to get drunk. He'd have been tempted to fight. He'd have been tempted to do many of the things that we do. But he did not do it. And so he understands what we're going through. He understands what it means to be hungry. He understands what it means to be afraid. When he went into the synagogue on Sabbath in Luke 4 and preached his inaugural sermon in the synagogue in Nazareth, and the people didn't like it, they grabbed him and took him to the hill to throw him off. And he was able to escape. You think I think he felt a bit fair too, but still he trusted his father. He managed to get away and he disappeared. Another time he said, I ain't going up to Jerusalem because they can kill me if I do that. He went secretly. He said, my time ain't come yet, so I'm not going. He knew, he understood. And we need to help people to see these things in this time. We have a friend in high places, and I close with the one I always like to. We must also remind people that when they stand before the judgment, they must have Jesus as their attorney. Let them know that if they don't fear God and worship him, God can get them. Like the old preachers used to say, God's going to get you for that. He knows you to run and hide. He knows where you're at. You need to tell them that. But when they come to Christ, they also need to know that their attorney, which is Jesus, has already made a deal with the judge, who is God the Father, that anyone that Jesus represents in the heavenly judgment is going to walk out free, will be acquitted. I call it conspiracy in the courtroom. It's the Father and the Son. The judge and the defense attorney know each other. They related father and son. So you cannot lose in the judgment, but you must stick with the attorney. Don't represent yourself. How do you represent yourself? By believing because of what you do and your good works and what you do. It ain't amount to nothing. You will be judged by your works, because your works will also demonstrate, will be a witness as to how far you strayed away from God and didn't listen and didn't trust him. You see, the works are a reflection of the relationship. The works are not to save us. By grace are you saved through faith, by exercising faith. But when you don't abide in Christ, you know what happens? You start doing your own thing. Even if you start doing a lot of good things, but you're outside the relationship with Christ. So some would say, we cast out demons and we won thousands, and Christ would say, I don't know you. Depart from me, workers of iniquity. They did all the right things. One, they failed in the relationship, and that is the most critical thing. The relationship motivates you like the Apostle Paul to do the will of God. If we take nothing away from today, I want us to remember that. One, you have a friend in God, Jesus, who is working on your behalf. He's not going to look at, oh, you made a mistake right there. I get you. Say, no, you are walking with me, and you chose to keep on walking with me all of your life. You might even forgot about that thing you did deliberately. He looks at the overall trend of your life. Not that you're flawless, because if it was flawlessness, all of us would be lost. In the judgment, I'm using my sanctified imagination. Satan can pull up his heavenly computer and show all of us what we did wrong. You did this, you did that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you were thinking this and that and that and that. And all we can do is say, yeah, that's true. And then Jesus can say, that's fine. But on Wednesday night in the month of February in 1984, Lyndon Oscar Williams made a decision to serve me. He never turned back from that. And he kept walking with me. And as a result of that, my blood makes up the difference for all of his shortcomings. And because the agreement is there, God who sits as the judge, take his heavenly gavel, bang, acquitted, you're free to go. That message people need to hear. They need to know that judgment is coming, but don't stop there. Let them know that they have a friend who will stick with them right to the very end. And even if, God forbid, you pull out of your house, your apartment, whatever, your friend hasn't forsaken you. He hasn't left you. When there is no food, your friend is still there. When your car gets repossessed, your friend is still there. Friend in high places. That's my message today. You have a friend who's going to be there with you. When your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, one fella said his parents tell him he need to go, get out of the place in the UK. So he's homeless. He's dragging a suitcase with only one wheel rolling because the next one then wear down and broke off. The two suitcases. He has a friend in high places. I don't know whether he knows a friend. So whatever you run across, let people know they have a friend who will see them through to the very end. But you must stick with him. Don't let him go. Like Naomi said of Ruth, where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die there too. Jesus, I ain't letting you go. I'm going to hold on to you with everything I have because you're the only thing that's saving. Past and disappoint you at some point along the way. Your parents, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your friend, your employer, all of them will disappoint you somewhere along the way. Jesus never will. Friend in high places. He has authority, he has power. And even if like Daniel or Joseph, who was put in prison because of a false accusation, still got a friend in high places who can take care of you. I want us to remember that. In the days of uncertainty that lie ahead for all of us, nobody knows what's going to happen 3 months from now. We don't know what's going to be happening in the world. But what I don't want you to forget, you have a friend in high place. May God bless you.
Thank God for the word. The word of God that said you put us in perfect peace. Mark. And with that, we can all stand and sing hymn number 202. Because then, King of glory.
are so grateful that we can come into your house of worship today. We thank you for the message that warns us. Be alert, be ready to give some word of our loving Savior who is ready to save to the utmost. Father, we beg that you will be with us now as we leave this place to go home, but not from your presence. Please take us, and Lord, help us to be faithful to you. Bring us back again when we can further worship you, we pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Have a good day. May God bless you.
Okay, last week we started looking at the topic prejudice and discrimination. This afternoon we have 3 short videos that we're going to show basically anti-Semitism, and you heard Pastor mention about there being segregation in several of our conferences, especially in the United States, and it shows how they came to that decision and some choices that we can do to help change that